The Millfield Mine, or the Number 6 Mine, was first opened on March 4th, 1912, located 1 mile east of Millfield in Dover Township. It was opened by Millfield Mining Company, founded by Clinton Poston and George Smith. In September 1929, the Sunday Creek Coal Company purchased the mine. Over 800 people were employed there at this time. Workers collected over 5,000 tons of coal a day, 5 days a week, working in 2 shifts. On October 31st, in 1930, the state mining inspector found there was a gas buildup in the Number 6 mine. This was very bad for the miners, for the gas was toxic and extremely flammable.
Back in the 1930s, they used candles in the mine, so it was a very dangerous situation, especially being trapped underground. The Number 6 mine was given 10 days to fix the gas problem inside the mine. Five days after the warning, on November 6th, tragedy struck a few hours after 182 of the 260 workers on the day shift and company officials had entered the mine. Around 11:45, an explosion occurred inside the mine due to a spark from a trolley wire. The explosion was so great it ripped steel tracks out of the ground for hundreds of feet. It was even able to knock 8-ton motors off of their tracks. A group of 80 workers were about 4,700 feet away from the blast when it happened.
When they heard the explosion, some dove to the ground by instinct, and the ones who didn't was knocked to the ground by a hot gust of wind exiting the shaft. Shortly after, they were thrown around by another gust of wind returning to their shaft, which was filled with smoke shortly after the wind had died down. 2 companies of National Guard were called in to handle crowds of family and friends from the town. 24 Red Cross nurses, local doctors, and Salvation Army volunteers came in to help treat the wounded.
When the smoke had cleared enough for the rescuers to enter the mine, the goal was to look for survivors and collect bodies of the deceased. Later, in the aftermath, a total of 81 bodies was found. 11 hours after the explosion, no more men had been found, leaving those above ground, along with the rescuers below, hopeless. "19 men, however, were still alive, and around midnight the last survivors were found and brought to the surface. The bodies of the dead were recovered hours later. The company had set up a makeshift morgue inside the company's store.
This terrible accident left 154 fatherless children and 59 widows. Families had lost more than one family member. After the accident, Andy Kish and Andy Kish Jr. were found dead, holding each other in their arms. One miner, George Rasp, was saved from the toxic gases by his wife's apron he had taken to work that day. He dipped the apron in coffee and tied it around his face, crawling on his hands and knees to another shaft that was safe. When the explosion had happened, he was blown almost 100 feet from where he had originally been standing.
The state decided to pay for the funeral cost and compensate families that lost someone. $6,500 was paid at $18.75 a week. A month after the explosion, the mine reopened until 1945 when it closed for good. All that stand today is some of the old foundations of some of the buildings and the tower of the main shaft, which can be seen by the road. There is now a monument at the Millfield Post Office to remember those who lost their lives.
After this terrible disaster and so many lives that was lost, Millfield is still a town today with a third less people as there was in 1930.